Xi Jinping is a communist, is a stupid communist. Xi Jinping likes Putin, and Putin likes Xi Jinping. Why these two guys come together?
Is China interested in Russian war against Ukraine, and what team China is playing?
Of course, if Russia collapsed in the sense that it will be divided into different parts, then that will be another story. Xi Jinping is more ideologically oriented. He does have the ambition to create a fully new world order.
China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it.
We have Trump, and Trump is a very strange phenomenon in the world because he's unpredictable, first. Second, he deal with everything like a dealer, a businessman. In this sense, the Taiwan issue is also negotiable. It's tradable.
Hello, I'm Jenny Klochko, and you're watching my podcast, the platform for guest stories beyond your daily newsfeed. I hope you had amazing time, wonderful time with your families and children, and you're ready to dive into global politics with us. Today we discuss China's role in Russian aggression against Ukraine and what we have to expect this year. Peace negotiations, different world order. Let's have a look. Today, my guest is Dr. Junhua Zhang, Senior Associate at the European Institute for Asian Studies, GIS expert on China and the Eurasian region. And he's based in Berlin. I'm in London. And good morning to you. How are you feeling today?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine.
Great. So, is China interested in Russian war against Ukraine? And what team China is playing? Is a Russian team or it's China's team?
Okay, first, when we use the term Russia or China, then I think we have to pay attention that somehow the leadership is different from the Chinese nation. Let's say, so sometimes the Chinese nation was forced to do something. In this case, we should call Xi Jinping's China, for example, because the leadership in China is headed by Xi Jinping. So it's quite different. China without Xi Jinping and with Xi Jinping, it could be totally different, especially in the say in the stance toward Russia in the Ukrainian war. So I think the world is not very lucky enough because we have kind of constellation that Putin existing in Russia, and Xi Jinping is now the leader of China. If, let's say, one of them doesn't exist, then the situation could be totally different. Let's put it this way. If Putin will, wage the war without China, without China's assistance, then I don't think that Russia could the Russian invasion could last longer than more than half year. So because its capacity, it's limited. But China has provided quite a lot, helped Russia quite a lot in, military industry, this and that, different things in the technologies. So this, I think, it's a very important input. So the question is that why does China do that? That is the question. I think first we have to look at the two, different levels. One level is the personal level. That is the characteristic of Xi Jinping, and he, I would say, actually, I would recommend you say some articles of mine about this issue. Actually, Xi Jinping didn't care too much about what Russia is doing. that was the situation in the Obama era. So in the Obama era, he even suggested, made the suggestion to Obama that we, that is China and the U.S., should create a new great power relations, in the sense that we should be form this kind of bipolar world together. And that was the philosophy by that time. That was about 2012, 2013, when he just came to power. So, but the problem is that I think, out of different reasons, the Western countries didn't care about that, or Obama didn't care about that. And the tricky issue is that the Western countries continue to help China to provide the technologies and so on by that time. And they didn't realize the danger China could have in future. So, this happened only, starting from Trump's era, and then, enhanced by the Biden administration and so on. But in the Obama era, there was still kind of a complacency of the so-called global democratic, camp, in the sense that, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the global democratic camp has got the feeling that we are strong enough. There is no any other, authoritarian countries which can conquer us. So that was such kind of complacency existed. So then Obama might have thought that, why should I cooperate with you? Why should I work with you? You China as kind of number 2 or number 3. You don't deserve it. And so, the suggestion was, of course, was not accepted by Obama. Then Xi Jinping started to look around who could be, the alternative, with which I can, substitute the U.S. Of course, there was no alternative. But in the end, he found one. That was Putin. That was Putin's Russia.
Look, a few things. First, Obama didn't care about many things, and Crimea annexation. The other thing, I absolutely not agree with you. Just 2 boys who play in bed right now, and instead of taking responsibility for destroying half of Ukraine, for attacking civilians daily, destroying people in very central Kiev, in any part, Ukrainian children don't have a peace at night, and you are saying it's the West's fault. Just because they didn't play how Xi Jinping wanted to make peace, make cooperation. I don't think it makes perfect sense. And the other thing is, what's the good Russians play the card? They say Putin's Russia, Putin's war, not taking responsibility for war crimes which is done not by Putin, done by Russians. For those Russians who support the war, encourage their soldiers on the front line to rape, to do the war crimes. And again, it's Putin. And this sort of like the card which is played by the good Russians, denying their reality. Look, Obama did what he did. Ukraine lost a lot since 2014. And now, when China is playing in Russia's team, supporting Russia economically, supporting Russia diplomatically, and they definitely on the wrong side of the history. And just because it didn't go to their plan, I don't see it makes any sense.
Okay, I think you probably it could be hasty comment on your side, in the sense that actually what I wanted to explain is the global background, why these 2 guys come together, that is Putin and Xi Jinping. So originally, let's put it this way: if Obama could have a more, say, smarter tactic and strategy toward China, in the sense that on the one hand, try to do so seemingly to say work with China, but on the other, say taking measures like Joe Biden to limit the technology, say outflow to China, and so this way, only this way, China wouldn't have become today's China. So that is the reality. So this is one thing. The other thing is that it makes sense that Xi Jinping then tried to find an alternative, and that Russia has become the alternative. So he made a visit, say, shortly after he, say, become the leader of the country, made a visit to Moscow, and then he suddenly realized that Putin and he both have. He said by himself, I just mentioned that, oh, we both look really like, judging the character, very much close. So that was he said. That is the way of thinking, although actually Putin is not a communist. Russia is not a communist country, although it is kind of, let's say, crony capitalism or whatever, and so on. But Russia is not communism. Xi Jinping is a communist, is a stupid communist. Anyhow, they came together. This kind of personal feeling played a very important role. And by that time, a think tank from the Tsinghua University presented a report on the Sino-Russia relations, saying that Russia doesn't deserve such a partnership of our country, and so on. And what Xi Jinping made a comment on this report. What did he say? He just put the one word: nonsense. You see the difference between intellectuals in China and Xi Jinping, who has just school level in judging his knowledge structure, So this is the reality. But he, just like Putin, forced the Russians to love China, and Xi Jinping forced the Chinese to love Russia. So that is, actually, I was born in China. I worked in China from 2007 to 2019, and I knew that among Chinese, we do look down upon Russia. We didn't like Russia, but this changed not totally, but at least partially, in the sense that now, if you ask any kind of think tanks, they know what kind of consequences they could have. So they will say, okay, yeah, great, Xi Jinping is doing great thing, and so on. But the reality is that by that time, again, in the first term of Xi Jinping's leadership, that there was huge, a huge gap between the Chinese intellectuals, Chinese people, and Xi Jinping himself toward Russia. So, but anyhow, Xi Jinping changed this landscape, just like Putin changed the landscape in Russia as well. Actually, since I speak Russia, I was in Russia many times. I used to be a tour guide for German tourists in Russia. So I knew Russia in the sense that if they look at, once I was in the railway station, Yekaterinburg. So I was checked 3 times. The police checked my identity 3 times. Then I said to them, "Hey, ребята, guys, if I have a European face, you won't check me just because I have a Chinese face. You know what?" So that is the reality. What I wanted to say here is that this is the personal level. That is, Xi Jinping likes Putin, and Putin likes Xi Jinping. Of course, without the love of Xi, or without this affinity from the Xi Jinping side, Putin won't get anything. But actually, Putin was all the time very cautious toward China. You see that recently, the railway in Central Asia, China is now building a railway in Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, whatever. But it was for quite a long time not allowed. By whom? By Putin, because it was his backyard. Why? So that is the reality.
But those of these guys, Xi Jinping and Putin, they're both driven not by communist ideas or philosophical ideas. They're both driven by money. And as long as they flood in with this money, their elite and their population, and like in case of Putin, he pays lots of money those who go into the war, and people are just getting easy. The money is raised to join the army. So let's not just blame them. There's one thing, but I don't think that Xi Jinping just pure driven by friendship, comradeship, and all of that. I'm sure there are political benefits for China in this. Do you think Xi Jinping is interested in weak China, or he's looking for the right moment to see some territories to gain economical benefits? A part of this personal connection and chemistry as a leader of his own country, as probably part of his heritage, what's there for China?
Yeah, to answer your question, the first thing we have to know is that what is the scheme of Xi Jinping? What's his plan, life plan? So his life plan is to, like Trump, make China great. Not great again, but great. Make China great, in the sense that China should become number one in the world. And how make China, become number one in the world, militarily, technologically, and so on, so on? Very easy. You have to first get the technology from your, from the better ones, and that is from the US and from Russia. From Russia. Why from Russia? Because Russia's military technologies, not all, but part of them is still advanced in the eyes of Chinese. So that is one of the reasons why Xi Jinping decided to work with Putin, because he actually China did get things China wish to get, in the sense that there's some military technologies and so on, but not so. Actually, the whole time Putin was not so generous. Let's say there is kind of technologies about missile, and even some Russian experts. I mean the physics and so on. They physicians, they were arrested. They were put in jail due to their sale the Russian technologies to China, or kind of leak of technologies to China. But on the whole, the deal, has taken place between two sides. I give you something, Xi Jinping, let's say China buys oil and gas and help Russia financially, so in the payment of renminbi and so on. On the other hand, China has got things like military technologies and so on. Of course, I mean, actually, Russia has also got a lot of military technologies from China as well, because China is quite advanced, let's say, in AI and so on. And these things, that's good for Russia as well. But the point is that China has never waged such a war, it has not waged such a war in the last 2-3 decades. So China doesn't have any war experiences. So what, in that sense, China also wants to test the weapons, and that's why this kind of cooperation takes place. But what I wanted to say is that the aim of Xi Jinping is to say turn China into number one in the world, and although I mean it doesn't mean necessarily the Chinese population should become so affluent, so wealthy. No, the state should become absolute affluent and wealthy, and that is the goal. And I think actually China has made a great stride in technologies. We should say, regardless by stealing others and by say innovation, whatever. But the point is that if you look at the say performance of the Chinese military in terms of technology, and it's amazing. It's amazing in the sense that it's very threatening because another life goal of Xi Jinping is to take back Taiwan. So the seizure of Taiwan should take place in his say tenure. In this sense, and this is, by the way, this is also a huge task because Taiwan is an island. It's not so easy like the Donbass or whatever. To take. So in this sense, China should get well prepared for it. In this sense, again, partly why China supported the say invasion, because China wants to learn something from Russia militarily. So and actually China has learned a lot. So what this is, I think. You said that both guys or both countries, they love money, and so this is the base. No, money alone is not only such a base. I think Xi Jinping is more ideologically oriented in the sense that for him, he does have the ambition to create a fully new world order, without any kind of capitalist or non-socialist, say, system or, say, thinking. That is his ambition. Whether he can manage that, that's another story. But what I wanted to say is that what Putin's ambition is create a kind of a Russian mirror, Russian world. It's kind of, with help of Russian-speaking people everywhere in Israel, in Germany, whatever, and to create such a world. But Xi Jinping is not only a Chinese world, it is a new world order. His ambition is bigger than Putin's. So that is the reality. Of course, Putin then also learned from Xi Jinping, and that's why they are working on the so-called BRICS and so on, so on. And although, I mean, BRICS can never become a real instrument of their ambition. So that is the reality.
Interesting. The new world order. Well, there's a lot of speculation on that matter in Western media. But the thing is, do you see the indication as a scholar that Xi Jinping is also looking at the right moment to seize some territories for China on the border with Russia, when Russia is weak enough and wouldn't be able to fight back?
Let's put it this way. This kind of concern exists among Russians all the time, even today. But actually, the border issue has been settled quite long ago. It was settled already before Xi Jinping. That is, and China made many concessions in terms of territory demand and so on. So it was a huge betrayal of the country, and this kind of even the Chinese nation couldn't get, say, information about this kind of issue, about the settlement of the border, for example. But now the thing is done. And Jiang Zemin, that was the predecessor of Xi Jinping, and he signed the deal, and it was his kind of, it's a crime. It's crime that he sold so many territories. But let's put this aside. Of course, I mean, the memory among Chinese regarding the Far East, it still exists. It exists because there are also enough evidences about the existence of Chinese, and so you see that the Russians always they discovered something, let's say, a kind of sign or whatever in Chinese, say kind of border sign or whatever, say discrete from a Chinese emperor and so on in the Russian territory. So that is already a sign that this used to be the Chinese territory. I mean, actually, in the Chinese history textbook, it is clearly stated that for example, the famous poet Li Bai was born in Baikal Lake. So you see that in that region. So all these memories still remains. But I don't think that under Xi Jinping, China could do something. And I don't think that Russia is so weak that China would do anything at the moment. Of course, if Russia collapsed in the sense that it will be divided into different parts, then that will be another story. Then I don't think that the Far East in Asia there could be the same like today. That is the situation.
Do you think the war coming to Taiwan sometime soon? Because it's just now you said the China has to prepare to take over, but how soon? And do you see the indications, especially taking the experience with Russian aggression in Ukraine and how West acted, how West was undecisive and not doing as much as they could at the very beginning of the full-scale invasion?
Yeah. In the let's put it this way, Xi Jinping is, I think, is very urged. There is an urgency, say, in his daily life to take Taiwan because economically, China is going down, and the decline of the whole economy, it's not good for him. So he has to present kind of a good performance. So in this case, in the Chinese term, they call it reunification, although Taiwan and China were not such united or before. But anyhow, the so-called reunification should be materialized in his say term. And I think this is this could happen very soon, in the sense that it depends on how the U.S. will behave itself. You see that under the Biden administration, and I don't think that China would say do anything because it is still kind of the military presence is still existent, and the alliance between Japan and South Korea and so on still works well. But now the situation is changing in the sense that you see the turmoil in South Korea, and you see the change of political stance toward China in Japan, and now we have Trump. And Trump is a very, let's put it this way, a very strange phenomenon in the world, because he's unpredictable, first. And second, he deal with everything like a dealer, a businessman, and in the sense that everything is negotiable. And so in this sense, the Taiwan issue is also negotiable, it's tradable. So this is the reality. So facing this reality, we have to see that on the Chinese side, the military technologies has achieved a lot. They have achieved really a lot in the recent years. It's amazing. It's simply incredible with the help of AI, artificial intelligence, and so on. So I think this is, in this sense, China and Russia at the moment, in terms of the equipment, military technologies, it's two different levels. When China will launch a war against Taiwan, it won't be the same like Russia, do the invasion with, into Ukraine. It's not the same. So what I wanted to say is that the question when this kind of war could take place, then I would say it depends really on the environment, on the constellation, whether it will be in favor of China. And it is also, of course, also the perception of the leadership. So at the moment, I don't think we can say we are in such kind of environment, but this kind of environment can be created soon, could be created soon, if, let's say, Trump comes to power and then changed his kind of, let's say, stance toward East Asia, toward Asia, and so on, then it could be really dangerous.
Interesting. So in a way, we see the ambition, Xi Jinping's ambition towards Taiwan, and especially the situation in October when there's the Coast Guards were doing too many shifts and the situation felt very heated. But at the same time, any war is weakening the state. And you saying Xi Jinping want to change the world order. Don't you think these movements towards Taiwan can weaken China just enough for Xi Jinping not to achieve his bigger goal, new world order, and especially having such presidents like Donald Trump in the US?
I think it is true that any warfare could weaken a state. This is true. But the point is that a war at which level? If, like, let's say the invasion of Ukraine, it was really very, it costed a lot, not only the lives of Ukrainians, but also the lives of Russians. And it's a huge, Putin is really doing it at a huge risk. That's why, let's say, Xi Jinping wanted to learn from the Russia's lesson, in a sense that I don't think that he is so stupid that he will send so many fodder cannons to Taiwan. That's why the drones, the AI controlled drones, they will play such an important role for at least in the first phase of the warfare in China, if it will take place. But as I said, that is the ability of all autocrats in the world. They can mobilize their nation, like Putin mobilized its own nation as well, and the whole nation, more or less. Although I mean, you hear more and more critical voice in Russia. And when I was in Russia, last year, I heard a lot of critical voices from my friends. I mean, they are intellectuals, they are ordinary people, they are different type of people, but they didn't dare to speak it out. That is the reality. And I think the point is that Xi Jinping also realized that Chinese actually don't like war, but still Chinese are very easily, on the whole, are very easily, say, get themselves mobilized through any kind of ideology, like the ideology of reunification, the ideology of the, say, evil West, and so on, so whatever. So what I wanted to say is that for a while, for a moment, it might still work. It depends on how long a war could last. I don't think that Xi Jinping would like to say to see that the war will last too long, and actually it won't have too much. Probably, I think to seize Taiwan. Maximal probably only half a year and so, or even shorter, so that the world economy won't feel too much pain, and that is you see that China is different from Russia in the sense that China cares about the global economy because it is part of the global economy. It cannot earn money, make money without the global economy. So in this sense, I don't think that, but Russia doesn't care too much. As I said, these two guys, Putin and Xi Jinping, they have two different ambitions. Russia cares about Ruski Mir, and then Xi Jinping cares about the global order, a new global order. Of course, probably with the same economic, mechanism, but he need a new global order. So that is two different levels. What I wanted to say is that the Taiwan war won't take place in a form that the global economy will be damaged too much, because in this sense, China will then definitely will be harmed much more than Russia, because China is an export-oriented country, and without the global economy, China cannot survive.
All world, and Ukraine particularly, waiting for Donald Trump's attempts to negotiate peace. And he promised to do it in 24 hours. But we know that China made effort to present their six-point plan and trying to be a negotiator between Ukraine and Russia. Well, China can't do that because they clearly are not neutral country. But what's your take on peace, which promised by Trump, and the Xi Jinping's or Chinese government effort to present this peace plan between Russia and Ukraine?
Okay, the thing is that I think the whole world, particularly the West, had too much hope in China, in the sense that China could become a mediator. Xi Jinping could convince Putin to cease the war, and so on. So on. This kind of hope, it's totally nonsense. It's totally without any ground. What I wanted to say is that this is another feature of the Chinese nation, not only Xi Jinping. As I said, the Sino-Russian relations depends on two levels. One is the personal level, that is the personal alliance between Xi Jinping and Putin, and the other is the level of the whole the nation. As a nation, Chinese are great opportunists. So in the sense that they look at situation when Russia is winning, then they will say, "Oh yes, we will help Russia, we will support Russia," or their slogan of support Russia will be louder. But when Russia fails and Russia is suffering from really many disasters in the war, then they will say, "Oh, we should be cautious. Probably we have to switch to the West, things like that. You know, it's great opportunists. In that sense, there is no principle. The so-called 6-point, peace suggestion, whatever, nonsense. There is no substance. Let's put it this way: to maintain, a country's territorial integrity, things like that, sovereignty, and so on, so on. This term exists everywhere in Chinese diplomacy, but the question is that whether China cares about that. China, even when Putin occupied the Crimea, and then China secretly sent a delegation, industrial delegation to Crimea. What is it? Of course, China never mentioned that. And even by that time, on the Chinese map, world map, it still shows that Crimea was the territory of Ukraine. But in reality, China was secretly sending the delegation to Crimea to talk about business. What is it? So you see that this is China is a nation. I'm sorry, I say it too directly. In this sense, China is formally a nation. It's a nation without principle, without moral backing. I'm sorry, I'm a Chinese. I know what is it. Yeah, so that is the issue. And of course, I mean, unfortunately, we see that Zelensky also changed his view, changed his perception on China many times. But the problem is that Zelensky doesn't have much choice. He is forced to accept China, regardless, as kind of, let's say, a neighbor or whatever, and so on. But he has to accept it because he's not in very difficult situation, especially if you see what the assistants of Trump said about Ukraine. It's annoying. It's incredible. It's not human. You see that is the reality. If Ukraine doesn't have any assistance from the USA, what can this country do? You see that Europeans, they talk loud. They talk quite loud, say. But the thing is that how much, of course, Europeans did their best, especially some, say, Baltic countries and so on. But on the whole, the Europeans cannot defend themselves. This is a reality. You cannot change that quickly.
Do you think Zelensky and Ukraine has a chance to convince Xi Jinping to play Ukraine?
No, it's nonsense. It's ridiculous. Again, as I said, it depends on how Ukraine can conquer Russia. If, let's say, Ukraine can create such kind of situation that Russia is failing all the time on the front, then of course Xi Jinping might change the view because, as I said, he is also an opportunist, like many Chinese. Yeah, he has looked at the reality and then he changed his position quickly. But the reality is that you see that there was time when Chinese sent a TV reporter, to the Ukrainian front. That was more than 1 year ago, because by that time, China somehow realized that Russia is not, combating very well. Somehow they sense kind of danger of this, the collapse of Russia, whatever, and so they send a reporter to Ukraine. Actually, it was rare because China. It also shows that China is supporting Ukraine, and actually, the reporter also send the scenes of the front to China, and convey the message to China that Ukrainians are fighting against Russia firmly and so on. And this was an invasion, but it lasted only 1 or 2 months. Then suddenly China changed the view again. So they withdrew the reporter. So there is no Chinese reporter now there on the Ukrainian front. And Chinese simply don't know what happened on the front. What they know is from the reporter based in Russia. That is the reality. That is the Chinese media today.
What does Ukraine need to win the war, in your opinion?
No, win the war, let's put it this way. First, I don't think that it is now already, it is time to talk about winning the war. It is not, let's say, the situation like 1 year ago or half of 1 year ago and so on. And this is, unfortunately, let's say, this situation was created both by Europeans, by US, and also by Ukrainians as well, and so on, in the sense that, let's say, Biden hesitated, and Europeans were not determined, and so on, so on. And Ukrainians were, unfortunately, I mean, they lost too much fighters, experienced fighters, and so on. So in this sense, even, of course, I mean, if the West really can support Ukraine by, say, sending the best weapons and so on, but this won't take place, then probably there is still chance to win the war. But today, I don't think that we will talk about winning the war in the sense that Ukraine will retake all the territories lost, say, through the invasion or even before. I don't think it is realistic. Say the realistic view is that, let's say, how to stabilize the front, and then, make a deal with Russia. And the question is that, of course, any kind of deal won't be too much in favor of Ukraine. This is unfortunately the reality. As I mentioned in the article in the newspaper, what Europeans are now doing is to make Ukraine lose with dignity. This is what they are not, what they can do, and what they are not doing. Unfortunately, of course, I mean, let's say the determination of Ukrainian fighters to say battle, or say, against the Russian invaders and so on. It's amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, but the point is that, you know, the size, let's say the size of Russia with help from China, and the size of Ukraine, it is not the same size. And it is really, unfortunately, I don't think that, in this sense, I'm not a great optimist. I think we have to be realistic to look at the things, how the war will be ended. Especially we have now Trump. Trump is not such a guy that he will do everything in favor of Ukraine. I don't think that, look at the Republicans. I mean, how many of them they are really supporting Ukraine? So that is the question.
Well, I hope you're wrong. And otherwise, Putin would take Ukraine in 3 days. If you remember the first weeks of invasion, Russian soldiers were told to prepare the parade uniform to march in central Kiev, victorious, but we know how it ended. And yes, Ukraine is smaller than Russia, but through the hundreds of years where Russia was trying to attack and destroy Ukrainian identity through the history, Ukraine has the state. Ukraine hasn't lost its identity, language, culture. And I'm not military person, analyst, or strategist, but I know that Ukraine did surprise many times. Otherwise, Russia would occupy Ukraine 3 years ago.
Yeah, we do hope so. But the point is that we should also say see the worst case scenario. Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, let's keep fingers crossed for some optimistic scenarios this year. Thank you very, very much. And I wish you well and enjoyable time in Berlin. And keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you for watching. We discussed China, Russia, and the tender, delicate, and touching friendship between Xi Jinping, Putin, and what peace negotiations, if it happens this year, what's going to be like for Ukraine. Please share your thoughts with me. Do you have concerns about China? Your thoughts? What's your opinion of our discussion with my today guest? And thank you very, very much for all your likes, shares, subscriptions. And it does help a lot to promote and grow for the podcast. Please keep doing it. And I hope to deliver more interesting stories and guests on this podcast. Stay safe and take care. I'm Jenny Klochko. Bye.